In the heart of rural Nebraska, a small diner owner faces a nation gripped by a brutal fuel shortage. With her emergency reserves dwindling, she makes a choice that could cost her everything, giving free fuel to stranded truckers. Her quiet act of sacrifice sparks a powerful chain reaction of kindness, loyalty, and patriotism. What happens next changes her life forever and proves that humanity shines brightest in the darkest times. Hit like and comment where you're watching from. Your support brings more amazing stories. Now, let's begin. The endless Nebraska highway stretched far beyond the horizon. A ribbon of dust and cracked asphalt cutting through fields of golden corn. At the edge of this quiet route sat Rosie's Diner, a modest brick building with a faded sign swinging in the summer wind. Its owner, Clara Mitchell, was a woman in her early 40s with sun-kissed skin weathered by years of honest work and sharp green eyes that reflected both strength and warmth. Clara ran this diner alone, alongside a small fuel pump station that had once been a lifeline for countless travelers crossing the rural heartland. But today, the quiet hum of engines was broken by an alarming new reality. A nationwide fuel shortage had gripped the country, and truckers, the lifeblood of American commerce, were getting stranded by the dozens along these back roads. Many had nowhere to turn. Stations had long since run dry. The radio crackled with warnings and frustration. But for Clara, this was no time to raise prices or close her doors. Her own emergency fuel reserves, precious drops saved for an actual emergency, were all she had left. Giving it away meant risking her own business's survival. Yet, as the sun climbed higher, she made a choice rooted deep in compassion and unyielding patriotism. She would open her pumps for free. Word spread fast among the weary drivers. At first, a few cautious trucks rolled in, engines sputtering on fumes. Clara greeted each one with a tired smile, but open arms. She filled their tanks without hesitation, refusing tips or payments, explaining simply, "We are all in this together." Her generosity was quiet, humble, and without expectation. The truckers, hardened by miles and hardship, nodded with silent respect. They knew the value of fuel, especially now, and they knew a kind heart when they saw one. That evening, as Clara locked up the diner, her fuel gauge dangerously close to empty, she stood outside and looked up at the vast Nebraska sky, stars beginning to twinkle. In the fading light, she had given away her last reserves. Tomorrow was uncertain, but tonight, she slept knowing she had done what was right. The next morning dawned cold and gray, but Clara's resolve burned brighter than ever. The word of her kindness had already begun to ripple through the long lines of stranded truckers scattered across Nebraska's highways. One by one, more trucks appeared, engines rattling on fumes, faces etched with exhaustion and worry. Yet, as each driver pulled up to Rosie's Diner, they found not just fuel, but a sanctuary. Clara moved with quiet efficiency, filling tanks carefully, rationing what little she had left, knowing each gallon saved a life or a paycheck. Somewhere down the road, she did not ask questions, did not turn anyone away. To these men and women, she was a rare beacon of hope in a crisis that felt overwhelming and endless. They nodded their thanks, some with tired smiles, others with solemn gratitude that needed no words. The fuel pump, once a small convenience, had become a lifeline. Clara's sacrifice was more than generosity. It was a declaration of respect for the dignity of labor, of truckers who hauled the nation's goods, and of small business owners who kept the country's heartbeat steady. She understood the unspoken bond they shared, a mutual respect forged in hard work and grit. But with every gallon she gave away, the empty space in her own tank grew. By midday, the reality she had avoided pressed in. Rosie's Diner was running perilously low on fuel. Her emergency reserves, which she had guarded jealously for months, were nearly gone. Yet, she refused to turn anyone away. To Clara, this was more than business. It was about humanity. Late in the afternoon, as the sun dipped behind rolling hills, a convoy of 6 massive rigs rumbled in. Their drivers had heard the stories. They pulled up together, engines idling, faces worn, but grateful. They climbed down and gathered around Clara, their voices rough but warm. "Ma'am," their leader began. What you are doing here, giving away fuel when every drop is precious, is something none of us will forget. Clara smiled, brushing dust from her sleeves. I am just doing what anyone should, she said simply. We look after each other. That evening, as the stars once again dotted the sky, Clara sat alone by the pump. The last drop of her emergency fuel tank spent, she felt a quiet pride mingled with deep uncertainty. What would tomorrow bring? Would she find a way to restock? Or was this the beginning of a sacrifice that would cost her everything? But one thing was certain. Her kindness had already started a ripple that would not fade. The following days tested Clara in ways she had never imagined. News of the fuel shortage worsened, and the lines of stranded trucks grew longer, snaking through the countryside like rivers of steel. Yet still, Clara's pumps flowed freely, a defiant stand against the desperation gripping the nation. Each morning, she rose before dawn, her tired body fueled by resolve and an unshakable belief in doing what was right. Her emergency reserves had been completely drained now. Without them, every gallon she dispensed was a gamble, a risk to the very survival of her diner and the small life she had built. But Clara's compassion did not waver. She thought of the truckers, their long hours, sleepless nights, and the families waiting for them at home. To turn them away was unthinkable. Word of Clara's generosity spread beyond Nebraska's borders. Radio hosts spoke of the small diner with the big heart. Trucking forums buzzed with stories of the woman who refused to let her neighbors go thirsty. Her humble act had become a beacon of hope, a rare reminder of kindness in a world that seemed fractured by crisis. One evening, after the last truck had rolled away with a full tank, Clara sat on the diner's porch steps, staring at the glowing fuel gauge near empty. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured a simple cup of coffee. Despite her exhaustion, she felt a surge of something unexpected.
Pride.
She was part of something bigger than herself, a thread woven into the vast tapestry of Americans who refused to give up. Suddenly, headlights appeared on the distant road. A convoy of trucks approached slowly, engines humming low in the quiet night. This time it was more than a handful. It was dozens of rigs, their drivers united by gratitude and determination. They pulled up in a line stretching past the diner, a solemn parade of support. Clara's heart swelled as the drivers gathered around, their faces tired but shining with respect. The convoy leader stepped forward, a burly man named Joe, his voice steady. You gave us hope when none was left. Now it is our turn to stand with you. She shook her head, voice catching. I did what I had to, no more than any of us would. But Joe smiled.
No, ma'am.
What you did was something special, and we are not leaving until we show you how much it means. That night, under the endless Nebraska sky, Clara realized the ripple she started was becoming a wave, and her life was about to change forever. The morning sun spilled over the Nebraska plains like a golden promise. But Clara's diner hummed with an energy she had never known. The truckers who had gathered the night before stayed on, not just as guests, but as an unspoken family. They moved with purpose, cleaning the diner, fixing the weathered fence, and sharing stories that filled the air with warmth and laughter. Clara watched from the doorway, her heart swelling. This was more than repayment.
It was a community coming alive.
The men and women who had relied on her kindness were now giving back with a fierce loyalty born from shared hardship and respect. They spoke of her generosity not as a favor, but as a testament to the dignity of labor and the spirit that held America together. Among them was Joe, the convoy leader, a man in his late 40s with weather-beaten skin and eyes that reflected the miles he had traveled. He approached Clara quietly, a folded envelope in his hand. This is from all of us, he said, voice steady but filled with emotion.
We
wanted you to have this. It is not enough for what you've done, but it is a start. Inside was a check, large enough to ensure the diner would not only survive, but thrive. More than that, the truckers had arranged for a steady fuel supply, a direct pipeline from their network to her station, guaranteeing she would never run dry again. Clara's hands trembled as she looked up, tears welling in her eyes. This means more than you know, she whispered. Joe nodded. You saved us when no one else would. Now it is our turn to stand by you. Word spread quickly after that day. The small diner on the Nebraska highway became a symbol of kindness in crisis, of sacrifice without expectation, of the dignity of honest work. Clara's story inspired others to look beyond themselves, to reach out with open hearts even when times were hard. And through it all, Clara remained the same woman, strong, compassionate, and quietly proud. She never sought the spotlight. She only wanted to do what was right. As trucks rumbled down the road, fueled and ready, Clara stood by her pump and smiled.